Okay, moving on to the maxillary lateral incisors. The lateral incisors calcification begins at 1 year. Eruption is 8 to 9 years. Again, we have that plus or minus 6 months depending on the child's development. And root completion is 11 years. And if you remember back to the maxillary central incisors, the root development is at 10 years. So here is our maxillary lateral incisor. They are small in dimension except for the root length. They vary in form more than any other teeth in the mouth except for third molars, and we'll learn more about third molars later in the semester. There's a common variation of the maxillary lateral incisor, which is known as the peg lateral, and again we'll learn more about that later in the semester. And maxillary incisors are more likely to be congenitally missing than any other tooth except for third molars. So if you notice, our lateral incisors are in competition with our maxillary third molars, or I'm sorry, our third molars just in general. The root on a maxillary lateral incisor it's more narrow than the maxillary central incisor. So if you think about our maxillary central incisors, they're kind of like a bodybuilder, right? They're wider and stronger and have a bigger stance. Versus our maxillary lateral incisor, you might think of those as maybe a marathon runner. So they're going to be slender and just really thin, but they're still in shape, right? The root is as long as the central incisor but appears thinner. And the apical portion of the root often curves distally and ends in a sharp apex. So if you remember back to our maxillary central incisors, the apex was really rounded. So when you're looking at the maxillary lateral, we have a pointed apex. It's going to point distally, which that's going to help give you an indication on which tooth it is, if it's the right or the left maxillary central incisor, based on which direction the tip of the apex is pointing. And remember that the root length is going to be the same as the maxillary central, but it's more narrow. So those are the key points you're looking for. If you see two teeth side by side, one is narrower, and then it's going to be an indication that it's going to be a maxillary lateral incisor versus a maxillary central incisor. So here we go. We have all of our anterior teeth here. Here is our maxillary lateral incisor. Again, we have a narrow root compared to our maxillary central incisor. The root is going to be the same length. The tip of the apex is going to be pointing distally and more pointed. The central is going to be rounded and straight. When you're looking at the coronal portion of the maxillary lateral incisor, again, the distal is always going to be curved, just like the central. The mesial is going to be pointed. You're also going to have your developmental lobes, just like the maxillary central incisors. So here we have 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we have the reverse over here.